Okay, these are not your normal, typical beads. These are huge beads. I'm going to use these because it's easier for you to see. These are the beads I'm going to use. So they're huge enough that you guys can see them and know what the hell I'm doing. Alright, you take your first bead of row 2, your first 2 beads of row 1, take them all the way down to the bottom of to the end of your thread. Take your needle and pass it back through in the same direction that your tail is going. And make sure that it sits on top. Make sure that that bead that you put your needle back through sits on top of the other 2. And it'll look like this. Tie a knot to keep them in place so that they don't go all wonky on you. And your knot will actually go down inside your bead. So that's how your first 2 rows will look. The 2 on the bottom is your row 1. The one on top is row 2. Now, you take your needle. You pick up your bead you pick up your next bead for row 2. You go down through your bead on for row 1. And it looks like so. Pick up your next bead for row 1 and go up the bead you just added. Because I'm using such large beads, this is not going to be tight. It's going to be loose. Do the same thing again. Take your next bead for row 2. Go down the bead you just added. Your next bead for row 1 goes up the bead you just added. So this is what it looks like after you have your first 7 beads on there. The bottom 4 are your row 1 beads. The top 3 are your row 2 beads. Then to do your third row, some third rows do an increase at the beginning and at the end of the row. So just do your normal increase. I just add my 2 beads. And instead of, I have never gone through the first bead that I add. I always just go right back through and up the second bead. Sorry, cat hair. I love my babies, but I'm allergic to their dander. Pick up your next bead and add it under the second bridge. So you've got 3 beads of your third row now. Then add your last bead to your third row. Oops. Might help if I remembered to go through my other bead here. Sorry, I forgot to go through my other bead. So it's not connected. Ah. Oh, come on, thread. What the heck? Hang on. Okay, finally got my thread worked out again. Okay, now to do your next row, if it decreases like what row two, like how row 2 looks here, the way I do that is I go through, I go under my first bridge and pull through. I go under my second bridge in the opposite direction and pull all the way through. So now my thread is coming out between my second and third bead. I always rotate what I'm working on, so it's coming out between the second and third bead now. You add your first 2 beads, your first 2 beads of your row, go under your first bridge. Make sure your beads are situated the way that they should be. Go under your first bridge, make sure your beads are sitting up. Go back through your first bead. Unhook your tail. Go down your second bead. Go back under your second bridge and back up your second bead. That way you do not have your thread on the outside of your bead on your ends. If you notice, you don't see any outside threads on my beads. And this is how I get my thread to be hidden on my ends. I hope this helps. Let me know.